Good
Waleed, how are
morning.
you?
Good evening. How are you?
Good morning. How are you
Good.
doing over there?
I'm good if you're good. How's everything down there?
Oh, it's great. It's a beautiful day
Awesome.
today. I'm going to put
Uh-huh.
my microphone on too so that I can speak a little
Perfect.
more clearly with you. Better than me
Now,
yelling at my computer.
perfect.
Okay, here we go. So it's
That's
Ramadan
awesome.
over there.
It's going. There's
Okay.
a few things here that probably I don't know if you know about Ramadan or not.
Mm-hmm.
So they start the fasting around 3:30 to 4 a.m. and then they go along until like which is the not the dawn
Uh-huh.
but the evening prayer. So there are two evening prayers. There's the
Okay.
Maghrib prayer, which is almost when the sun sets, and
Okay.
there's the late evening prayer um, that we call the evening prayer. So they
Uh-huh.
they go for the fast until for the fasting until it is the sun sets um, or the sun sets. At
Okay.
that time they start eating and drinking. So it's a kind of
Yeah.
like what we have in the United States when it comes to not eating specific kind of food.
Yeah.
Um, During the 40 days or during certain
Yeah, like Lent or something like
yeah, it
that.
is
Yeah.
like Lent. It's
Okay.
definitely like Lent, but it's a little bit more extreme.
Yeah, with some of our Muslim students, every year we learn a little bit more about the challenges and how
uh,
students deal with the challenges. And
uh,
of course, we try to take it easy and just let them relax a little bit while they're learning.
mhm,
Because we have a number of students who are, of course, in the program now who are
mhm,
Muslim students, and there it's during Ramadan. So during class time, of course, luckily now with all of our classes being online,
mhm.
it makes it actually a little easier to study during Ramadan because you are able to just relax at home. In the past during Ramadan, our Muslim students would ask us in classes. They
Mhm.
would say, "Hey, I'm going to take it easy. I don't want to do this physical activity in the class because it's Ramadan." And we would say, "Oh, of course, no problem." But now, because it's online, everybody is relaxing at home, and so
Or,
it makes Ramadan a little bit easier to just be able to take it easy and save your
mhm.
energy and keep things simple for the day.
Or
So
maybe it's just an excuse to that students not to do a little bit of physical work.
maybe,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Um,
So, but it's has its challenges and something I respect a lot because the
mhm.
more I've learned about Ramadan and about what it's people proving that I can do without, I can live without. I can,
Definitely.
and it's a very admirable challenge to
Mhm.
undertake every year. So yeah.
Beautiful. So I think today what we are going to talk about is probably two major topics, and then we're
Yeah.
going to diverge to talk about some other aspects of language
Yeah.
that I call frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
And then I will definitely develop a kind of tip recommendation basis on that.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, since we started delivering online classes, so the prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have accumulated a little bit of experience in terms of how to deliver the English language-based training materials to students distantly
Yeah.
before COVID-19 crisis. So
Mm-hmm.
how did that help you as a conduit to the crisis and during the crisis delivering of the materials?
Well, moving to online was something we had already been thinking about. I don't want to say planning yet, but we knew
Mhm,
that some kind of online interface was going to be the future, at least, because students love coming to California and being part of the program here, but not
mhm,
every student can do that. And so we said, we need to branch into online to start delivering our lessons to people who just can't leave their job and their life behind in their country and come to
mhm.
California. So we had already been thinking about it. And so when this happened, and I like to say, I wish I could say we had been planning on it, but we had been thinking that the plan was
Yeah,
necessary
definitely. No,
soon.
nobody was predicting the kind of crisis that is happening right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But, thankfully, I've got to say, my teachers, we take a lot of pride in having excellent teachers at Connecting English. We were established by teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so our focus on high teacher quality has always been the most attractive thing that
Mm-hmm.
we tell students. We don't hire a teacher off of the street and say, oh, you speak English and I see you have a certificate. That's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
We really put our teachers through a rigorous interview and entry process to join Connecting English. So we're very confident in them. And so when we made the switch to online lessons,
Mm-hmm.
we were holding our breath. And when it switched, the first day of it was March 16th, and
Yeah.
we watched our teachers really shine. And we
Mm.
said, oh my goodness, it's so nice to be able to depend on our teachers.
Yeah.
Nobody was struggling to the point of failure. Everybody had their struggles of, well, how do I organize the documents before? And we all shared ideas with each other
Mm-hmm.
about how to solve problems, because Zoom, of course, is good, but it has some issues at times and it has some shortcomings. But generally,
Definitely.
it's a good platform. It's good. I give it a good B plus in terms of our satisfaction with it.
I
And
think. Mhm.
we learn quickly. Our teachers learn quickly because they're passionate about, they don't want to let their students down. They don't want to disappoint their students. So they learn very quickly
Mhm.
to give the lessons effectively. And students learn quickly to, okay, if this is the new reality, let's do it. We're ready. And so the students have embraced it, the teachers have embraced it, and
Uh,
we're pretty darn happy with how well it's gone. And we're still moving students up through the levels. So, nobody's stuck at a level.
mhm.
Students can move from level 2 to level 3 to level 4, from level 4 to TOEFL, because our system is still working. And we're very happy about that.
How long does it take you to move students from one level to another, and
Well,
what kind of things do you depend on
mhm.
to ensure that uh, the 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 consistency of movement from one level to another is high and sustainable, and probably at the same time profitable to the students?
Yeah. Well, that's one thing. We try to put I would call it a gentle pressure on the students to move up.
Hmm.
Because there are students who just love their teacher and who get comfortable. And if we didn't push them a little bit, they would probably stay in the same level for the rest of their lives because they like their teacher so much. But
So.
of course, that's not good for them. So our system exists to
Mhm.
to to give students some warnings.
Mhm.
Hey, you've been in this level for 12 weeks, and the level finishes at 16 weeks. So
Mhm.
therefore, you have 4 more weeks until you're going to start repeating material. And if you're repeating material, you're going to get a little bit bored, and
Mhm.
nobody wants to be bored in class. And so some students would say, no, it's okay. I'm happy to repeat material. I love my teacher. We
Mhm.
say, okay, but no, you do have to move up. And so the
Probably.
system pushes people.
Um, well, there are of course differences between getting education in the United States and getting
Mhm.
education in Iraq. Sometimes, and this is probably my approach to deal with the students. I deal with them as customers who are trying
Yeah.
to purchase an item from Apple Store or Google Play
Yeah.
or one of the stores, and we always perceive that as that the customer always knows what they want,
Uh-huh.
but they do not know what they need. So
Yeah.
to some
I love
extent,
it.
we have to satisfy what they want by telling them
Uh-huh.
that we are doing this kind of need assessment and that needs assessment. But what sets you different from the whole crowd of teachers who probably do something professional like you do, but they do not reach the level of inspiration, is
Hmm.
the fact that you know what the students need and
Yeah.
you build the structure of the curriculum based on that principle.
Yeah.
So this leads me to my question, and probably I'm not expecting you to provide me a very professional answer right now. I just need you
Hmm.
to casually tell me the major three items that make you inspire your students
Hmm.
when it comes to delivering the materials. And probably it's a double-edged sword kind of question. The second thing, when it comes to students, how do you ensure that the kind of learning you provide online is on the same level of the face-to-face tutoring? or
Yeah.
face-to-face training?
Great questions. Okay, well, the inspiration comes from, this idea that I worked in a job before this. Before I was a teacher, I was working for a military equipment company, and
Uh-huh.
I did not like it. I needed to make a paycheck, but nothing I did mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing mattered to me. If I was sick, nothing changed. If I stayed home from work, nothing changed. If I worked hard, nothing changed. Teaching is it's so easy to have a direct impact on
Mm-hmm.
students, and that's what inspires me to keep putting my passion into this. I love being able to have a direct impact, and so my inspiration is being able to see the results of the work we do, and for us, pushing a student to the next level, and they have to pass a test to do it. They have to pass a test to show they understand everything or enough of level 3 to
Mm-hmm.
survive in level 4, for example. But seeing students move to the next level and continuing to succeed is just such a great reward. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so nice to see that progress that our system can give to them. Our teachers and our system together are going to push students higher. And of course, it's sad when a student finishes your level and you see them with another teacher. You say, "Oh, I'm so proud of you now in Carson's class." But
Or maybe I'm so proud of getting rid of you.
at times, yes, it is. Like, I want to get this guy up out of into the next level because he's been sitting in my class for too long,
Yeah,
and he's now
definitely.
repeating material. Because if a student's repeating material, that's just not productive enough.
That
So at
is.
that point, they start getting weekly warnings by email and by
Mm-hmm.
conversations with us to say, "Hey, another weekly reminder, you're now repeating material. You
Mm-hmm.
can't do this for much longer." And we actually have a standard that if a student repeats material for too long, we do have to push them out of the program. We say, if you won't move up, you have to move out. That's part of our accreditation standard,
Mm-hmm.
is that to be a federally accredited school,
Mm-hmm.
we have to have a standard that if a student won't move up,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of refuses or doesn't put in the effort, they have to leave the program. Now, that's only happened maybe 3 or 4 total times over the years, because generally we'll add some private lessons,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll give them some extra help. And give them some. We also, if you fail your level exit test, if a student fails and tries to move up but doesn't pass the test, we show them the results. We say, "Hey, your vocabulary, you did great. Your listening, you did great. But it looks like your grammar area is where you need the most help and that you need to
Mm-hmm.
focus." So students can then give the efforts on that specific area, and usually that's enough to move them to the next level. So that's how our system works, and that inspires us when we can see that progress. We don't want, in English, we would say to camp out, to
Mm-hmm.
like to go camping and just stay in the same place. We
Mm-hmm.
don't want our students to camp out. We do have to put that gentle pressure on them and let them know that the system works. They can see that their friends have succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
That people have moved up in their level below them, and now their friends have moved up out of their level above them now, and they're
Mm-hmm.
still sitting there, and they say,
Mm-hmm.
"You know what? It's time. I need to move up. It's time to get to a higher level." So that's one of the inspirations, is being able to see that progress based
Mm-hmm.
on the strength of our system.
Okay. I think one of the beautiful thing about your program is that your virtual presence
Hmm.
on Facebook platform, and that
Yeah.
brought you a huge community in Iraq, and
Hmm.
this community is waiting for the next lesson. So now I'm not going to ask you to spill the beans and tell me the secrets of your success, but I would
Hmm.
definitely love to hear from your perspective on
Yeah.
the system that you run in order to ensure that the student is following very high standards and their
Hmm.
level is gaining the knowledge and acquaintance with language that is required, and that is tabloid in the syllabi that you set for each one of the levels. So
Yeah.
I would love to ask you to tell me briefly how you train the students from
Hmm.
point A to point B when
Hmm.
it comes to preparing them to acquire language or learn language over the
Hmm.
course of the training period.
Well, I would say it all comes down to the teachers.
Mhm.
Our teachers, we hold our teachers to a very high standard. We monitor them often.
Mhm.
And they're very comfortable with us going into the classroom.
Mhm.
And so the fact that the teachers, we require that our teachers be excellent classroom
Mhm.
managers, because
Mhm.
if they have, if you have 12, 15, 18, 20 students in a class, no matter what, you have to give the students a lot of speaking time by putting them in groups and monitoring their groups carefully so that they can speak with each other. So you might have a student from Thailand and a student from Brazil and a student from Saudi Arabia
Mm-hmm.
in the same group together. And of course, they have to speak English to each other. And so luckily, Zoom lends itself pretty well to that. And so what we're trying to do in the Zoom classes is making sure that our students have their cameras on, because some students prefer to turn their cameras off. And we
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, that's fine. You have the right to some privacy if you're sitting in your home and there's distractions around you. But we want their cameras on. And that the fact that the cameras are on as often as possible means that when they get in groups with partners, they can have a more personal interaction with their partners. It's not black screen against black screen.
Mm-hmm.
We want, that's that guy from my class. I recognize him,
Mm-hmm.
or I recognize her. So we try to keep the student community, we try to keep a personal level of community going on that keeps students happy to be there working with friends and the friends aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
We also have added on a lot of supplemental classes, because one thing we realized quickly is that our classes normally end at 1:30 p.m. On Monday through Thursday. But
Mm-hmm.
then for the remainder of the day in the online era now, students were kind of bored at home,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, I guess I'll watch some TV, sure. So we started adding on supplemental classes. So we have our directors, who are usually teachers. They do supplemental classes in the afternoons. And so this coming week we're gonna have we have a TOEFL supplement, TOEFL speaking. Then on Tuesday we do a conversation class, just general, all
Mm-hmm.
levels, people talking about topics. And then this coming Tuesday we also have a book club that I'm excited to be launching. So the students just received tonight their materials to read this short book, a short book that is going to be, we're going to review it on Tuesday at 4:00. Then on Wednesday is my pronunciation class in
Mm-hmm.
the afternoon. And then Thursday, we're also doing a slang class in the afternoon that I run. And then on Friday, we did it today, we do a combination of cooking and yoga. So
Okay.
students can choose yoga or cooking. So we're really trying to give students that complete experience still.
Or experiential learning.
Yeah, we're giving them, and when they join those supplemental classes, they're meeting new friends too, because it's students from other levels and from
Mm-hmm.
the other campuses. So we have 3 campuses, but we have some students from the La Jolla campus, Pacific Beach, Mission Valley, all joining together. And so they're getting to meet new people, and
Mm-hmm.
it's giving them that chance to be more social, which is a good way to activate their English and to use the English, the grammar that they learned earlier in the day. Now they can use it in a less stressful environment where they're just talking about a topic, and it's comfortable for them.
Oh, when it comes to talking about the topic or the
Mm-hmm.
skill of speaking here,
Mm-hmm.
based on your experience, how many hours do you think the student needs um, to move from one level to another? And I'm just trying to probably give it a specific number.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time when we throw it on the table, that if you
Yeah.
do not maintain this amount of hours of practice every day or every month or
Mm-hmm.
every trimester, you're not going to reach the expected level.
Yeah.
So do you have specific number of hours on top of your head when it comes to recommending the students to maintain
Mm-hmm.
and speak, and of course about all walks of life?
Yeah.
We're talk about technology, probably the advances in science or religion, or monolithic creatures, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
topic is.
Well, our program is set up for those 16 weeks. We do 4 days per week of classes. But of
So
course, we think
16.
16 weeks per level is a little longer than we would like, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. But it is a number that fits well. Like, the system works well with 16 weeks. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we actually allow students and urge students to take the test to move up
Mm-hmm.
at 8 weeks or 12 weeks. So they
Mm-hmm.
can move up sooner if they'd like to. But we feel
So
like
how many hours
16 weeks. Yeah.
do they take every day during the 4 days period during the
Yeah.
16 weeks? How
Well,
many
the
hours
basic
do they have?
program, what's called
Mhm.
our English Max program, it's our most popular. That one is 18 hours per week. So that is
Okay.
9 in the morning, California time, until 1:30 p.m.
Mhm.
California time. So 4.5 hours with some breaks in there, of course.
Mhm.
And so it's basically 4.5 hours a day, a total of then 16 hours per week, or 18 hours per week, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And that with a total of, 18 hours per week times 16 weeks, generally students have made a lot of progress in that time. But a lot of students don't want to take 16 weeks per level. They want to move up faster. And 16 weeks is, like I said, a little slower than I personally like, but the system works well that way. So that's why we say, hey, if you're ready, it's 12 weeks. Take the test now. Move up. You're ready, dude. You can do it. And students generally, when we encourage them, they say, teacher, do you think I can? I'm like, of course I think you can. I've been working with you for 12 weeks. I think you're
Yeah.
ready. And they generally do. And then if students fail the test, it's okay. They can take it again in a couple of weeks. There's no
I
consequence,
think
no penalty.
I think one of the difficulties of convincing the students to move on to the next level is that there's no realized kind of progress that they see physically. Sometimes they
Yeah.
do not notice the progress that they've made over the 16 weeks period. So by consistently talking or by communicating with everyone or by producing a better kind of materials in the classroom, only the teacher can realize that they might not see how much they've progressed. And so that comes down to the fact that they might be hesitant to say, well, I'm ready for the next
Yeah.
leap of faith. But the idea that the teachers always try to inspire them to move on to the next level is something that is commendable. And I think you've been pioneering this online. And that leads me to my next question. You as an English teacher, do you think that there is a huge difference between delivering a class online to students that you know and face-to-face class that you deliver to students that you know? What is the kind of difference in terms of like percentile between the credibility of online learning versus face-to-face learning? Because there's this been ongoing debate that the validity and reliability of online training is not on the same bar of the face-to-face learning. So what is your comment on that based on your experience as an online teacher?
I would say that if we call our in-person on-campus program a 100, a score of 100 out of 100, online I'd say is 85 to 90% as good. I mean, there's no substitute for being immersed in the language in this country or in a country that is a native English speaking country. So, for example, when students do come to California, when they finish class, they're hanging around with a Korean student, a Japanese friend, an Italian friend, and they're going to lunch together and they're continuing to use their English. But of course, unfortunately, in this era, when social distancing and people staying away from each other, it is called to not be activating their language as much in their free time. And so it's causing after 1:30 or after 2:45 when the classes end, the remainder of the day the students are staying home and they're not interacting as much with other students in English or with native speakers in English because nobody's interacting as much with anybody. And so it's just kind of a product of the COVID-19 era that there's less social interaction. But we try then, like I said, with these supplemental classes to say, hey, join these. We did a movie club where we watch movies together on over Zoom. And of course, like I said, we did a happy hour on it was last night. We did a happy hour where we played some Jackbox video games together on Zoom. And that was really fun. And so we're trying to re-add that social aspect that you lose with online lessons, especially in this era. Without that constant day-to-day interaction in English after hours, after class, it does slow down the pace of your learning, because if you're not putting your knowledge to the test in real life, if you're not going to a restaurant and sitting down and talking with a server at a restaurant using your grammar, it slows down how much you're making it real for yourself. And so our classes do a great job, but they were always a good combination with real life. So you'd have a great class in the morning, and then you go out in real life in the afternoon and go play volleyball on the beach with some people, or go to a restaurant, or go to the museums, or hang out with your roommate. And the combination of our lessons plus the social interaction really created a fast learning environment. And now that the social interaction is weaker, I'll admit, we students aren't having as many opportunities to utilize and
Mhm.
activate what they're learning in their classes. So that is slowing things down, unfortunately. And
Probably,
we're
but
excited for.
it can work as an alternative to the face-to-face contact with the community
Yeah.
or the learning community, or being out and about when it comes to checking out a new recipe in one of the restaurants and trying to
Yeah.
try out that kind of hamburger somewhere else in
Hmm.
the city. Um, Now let's move to a new um, topic to talk about, and it is the frequently asked questions. I get bombarded every day with so
I can
many
imagine.
questions, of so many questions, and I've collected three. Probably, if we have enough
Great.
time, we can talk.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
first thing that I mostly get on my page is, what is the best way to learn a second language? So do you think, based on experience, there's one way to learn a second language, like English or Spanish or Portuguese, since you
Hmm.
speak the three languages, as far as I
I
know?
do.
And what is your recommendation to students who started learning English from scratch? Are
Hmm.
there any specific spell that they need to use to learn language, or they have to diversify the sources? And I just need to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah. Well, of course, diversifying your sources is great, but you have to focus on a few things, especially. And I would say probably one of the most challenging things is discipline. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to just come home from work one day and say, "Oh, I'm too tired to open Rosetta Stone or
Mm-hmm.
Duolingo. I love those lessons, but, I'm so tired." If someone's not holding you accountable, if someone's not saying, "Hey, time for your lesson," because you say, "Hey, student, it's time for your lesson. Let's go." And the student says, "Okay." And then you say, "Here are the exercises," and you do them. And you're holding the student accountable for their education. And it helps with the discipline, the regimented study. Because when you self-study, or when you're studying just a couple hours a week, and you tell yourself, "I'm going to only speak English with my wife or my husband on these days of the week," and then we don't do it. And so the discipline aspect of it is the challenge. And that's where a program, a system, and a good teacher who can hold you accountable say, "Hey, look, you have homework and I expect it by tomorrow. Don't forget, because tomorrow's class is going to start with correcting that homework." And the
Mm-hmm.
student goes home and says, "All right, I need to do that homework, because if I come into class tomorrow without my homework, the teacher is going to be disappointed and my classmates are going to be disappointed." So that accountability is probably an unspoken, or like unsung hero of language learning. When someone says, "I'm expecting this from you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I love you, and I'm doing this lesson for you because I love you, and I expect this writing project to be done by Thursday. If you have
Mm-hmm.
questions before then, ask me. But by Thursday, I want it done, okay?" And so the teacher holding a student accountable, or the student holding his or herself accountable, is a major factor that doesn't get pushed enough. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
we want our system to do, is accountability. We want the teachers to do homework 3 days a week. And we want
Mm-hmm.
the teachers to say, "I'm expecting this homework in class tomorrow. We're going to do a group activity with the homework." So that accountability is important. And that's what a good organized program does. It holds the student accountable, because students have busy lives and they have their own interests. And if they're not being held accountable, to do the homework and to do the exercises and to do the
Mm-hmm.
writing, then they're going to some days come home and say, "I'm just too tired to do that writing. I don't feel like doing it." I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I try to exercise every day, but now that I'm stuck at home all day, I don't exercise as much. I don't hold myself accountable enough. And I've thought about asking a trainer or a friend of mine to be an exercise partner. So that way, even if it's by Zoom, we'll be doing some
Uh-huh.
exercise so that we can hold each other accountable and stay focused on our goals.
Okay, perfect. Well, the reason I wanted to hear your perspective on that is that because I've been reading recently that there's no that quite big statistical difference between
Hmm.
delivering an online lesson and face-to-face lesson to
Hmm.
specific number of students that you have contact with. But I
Hmm.
just wanted to hear your perspective on that. Another question I get asked most of the time is, which one is more important, learning grammar or learning vocabulary or learning speaking? Now, kind of like debatable questions there, and this is one of them. A lot of people actually prioritizing grammar over vocabulary, or they just don't give it a chance to their vocal cords and their, you know, articulation or articulatory organs to take their role and do the practice. So based on your experience, which one is more important, and is there something more important than other aspects?
Well, I think that vocabulary and speaking are things that make students happiest, right? And the satisfaction that comes from growing your vocabulary and growing your and becoming more confident in speaking is kind of like it's kind of like candy. You know, it makes you happy, and it's, you know, if you're happy and you're smiling, then you're living a good life. But you can't do all candy all the time. You have
Yeah,
to eat your vegetables. And to me, the
that's a
grammar is
great
eating your vegetables.
analogy.
Yeah, you got to eat your
I think
vegetables. And
I'll be using it.
yeah, and you know, and you can make vegetables delicious. Now, of course, you know, a good amount of butter and salt, if you ask me, makes vegetables delicious. And that's how I cheat and help my diet. But but you need the vegetables. And to me, that's why it's important for a teacher to structure a grammar lesson that also allows for, you know, some plenty of speaking and vocabulary in there. But I like my lessons, and Connect English, we want our lessons to be a grammar base, but with plenty of time for the students to speak using that grammar. Okay, so that they get that talking time that they want. So whether it's presentations or group work, so they can say, okay, tell me what you will have done by the end of the week. Make a list of 3 things, tell your partner. So they're using that future perfect, for example. And then, of course, as always, when you use topical lessons and, you know, real world based lessons, like talking about music awards, for example, or talking about sports achievements or health technology, you can use grammar to talk about health technology and get a lot of speaking time talking, if you can keep the topics interesting. But I like to lay a good base of grammar and then turn it into speaking and vocabulary exercises. But the grammar to me is, it's the vegetables, and you got to eat your vegetables, you know?
So based on your experience, out of the 4 major skills that we have in English of listening, reading, speaking, and writing, what is the epitome of learning English out of these 4 skills? Which one for you is the most important skill?
Speaking. I mean, really, the joke I've often told to my students, and it's a joke that's true, is when you talk to someone about another language they know, we say, do you read French? No, we say, do you speak French? We say, do you write Russian? Like, no, do you speak Russian,
No,
right? And
that's a
just
very good example.
yeah, it's a kind of a clear, it just means that the speaking skill shakes to the top. And that is what we primarily expect out of folks. Now, of course, the other skills are going to help you acquire or strengthen it. I mean, I love teaching writing. Writing really forces students to analyze the way they're expressing themselves, but it's time consuming and it's painful. But writing is becoming more and more important than ever because of the online era, right? We have to be able to have a chat with someone on Facebook or on WhatsApp. We have to be able to communicate in writing well enough now, more than ever. And so, yes, speaking will always be probably the primary goal and the most important and the most fun thing to be able to do in a language too. But writing is definitely catching up. And, you know, the fact that, you know, you and I can have such a clear chat with each other because you're a great writer, obviously. And that means that, you know, that we first reached out to each other by writing on Facebook chat.
Definitely.
And so the writing skills are catching up and are becoming similarly important to the speaking skills. And as we move more to an online era, then the writing is going to become even more important than ever. But speaking will always be the thing that makes the students happiest. They love feeling good about speaking fluently. And then writing is catching up. And of course, listening and reading are going to be those things that you can kind of do on your own time a lot. And that's what I like about reading and listening.
Nick, can I tell you something that every day I get around 50 to 100 on that range of messages, and probably they're all sharing the same kind of request, which is, how do I develop my speaking mechanism? How am I supposed to learn English? What are the basic recommendations? Where should I be on the first, what is the first step to learn English? But you know what I do? I prioritize those people who ask me in English, and I prioritize those who ask me with a good writing style. And maybe that's very subjective, but I really favor those type of people because they've worked on themselves. They've had the chance to develop and read. And I always tell them it's like the analogy of input and output. The more input you provide to your mind through reading and listening, the better output it will be. It's like a factory. So the good the raw materials are, the good the produced materials are. So it is just like this kind of analogy. Last question that I have for you is, do you think English is an easy language compared to other languages?
No. I know it's not the most difficult language in the world. I've read about other languages that are much more difficult, but I think there are certain aspects of English where why is it like this? Why did we design? And of course, that's because English evolved and changed, and it became this mess, right? We really have two different languages. We have formal English, and we have casual, informal, conversational English. So you have to kind of learn two things. You know, the fact that we have often and frequently, they mean the same thing, but often is conversational and frequently is more formal and written. So
I don't know. I read it.
The vocabulary.
I read it somewhere that the Britain and Britain and Americans are two nations that are divided by one language.
And if you see, there are some people who comment on my pronunciation videos who tell me I'm wrong. And I'm like, hold on. And, you know, they say, no, you're saying it wrong. And I said, okay, if you speak British English, I can respect that. But there are 330 million people in the USA.
Definitely.
And to tell us that all of us are wrong, let's just talk. And I can agree with you. They're different. And you can make a strong case.
They might not be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can make a strong case for why a British version is better, why one makes more sense than the other. Oh, okay. I like the British way of saying that. That does make sense. But I can't change American English. I don't have that power yet.
I show them I gave my followers a video a few days ago by Steve Harvey, and his English is really beautiful, but the variety of English he speaks is not of course, the one that is common in TV shows or in movies. He uses a specific type of terminology, and they have this kind of beautiful way of saying he do the thing, not he does the thing.
Yeah.
So I showed them a 4 to 5 seconds clip where he says that, and I said, is he wrong? So there were like tons of comments that, yes, he's wrong, he's wrong. And I was like, no, he's not wrong. It's just a variety of vernacular English. And it's common in certain places in the United States. And just because it is not worldwide kind of a standard way of saying does not mean that it's inferior. It's just a geographic variety of language. And we have to understand that language is not a plateau. It has certain types of topographies that we have to understand. It has mountains and it has hills and it has valleys. So every geographic area is distinguished with certain kinds of terms, with certain kinds of uses when it comes to speaking. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, we have to respect the different geographic and cultural differences between languages. You know, I would say that personally, I'm a little bit more strict, but I would say that only to this point. I say if it causes confusion, then we have a problem. Okay. But when Steve Harvey says he do that every day, I completely understand what he means. I'm not sitting here saying, what did Steve just say? I'm confused. No, it's easy to understand. So he's not causing any confusion with his variety or his speaking style. It's when somebody says or writes something that makes me misunderstand, that's like, okay, we really need to address the misunderstanding.
Language is about messages and understanding and communication. So if you understand the delivered message, that would definitely gives the language the priority of being not perceived as should be syntactically structured in very strict and rigid style, but it's more about what kind of information you need to deliver to other person to understand you. So it's all a matter of mutual understanding.
Exactly.
At this point, I would love to thank you so much for your beautiful presence today and
I'm
for
very happy to be
your
here.
informative discussion and feedback that you gave us. It's such a privilege actually to host you in our page.
I'm honored to work with you as well. I know how
Thank
hard you work to help people, and I love cooperating with you. So this is great.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I'm
I'd
always
like to give
telling
a message at the end here. Just tell everybody to, yes, the online era is different, but stay with it. All right. If some students have said, I don't like online, but it's the best thing we have right now. And we got to keep doing it because this is the best time to continue making progress. And if we stay with it, keep working, we're going to be stronger English speakers as society reopens and everything becomes okay again. We're going to say, wow, I speak English even better than when this started because I stayed focused on my education. So stay focused, everybody.
Thank you so much. Let me translate that quite quickly. نيك دا يقول أنه التعليم عن بعد هو أفضل وسيلة تقدر تستغلها هذه الفترة حتى تتعلم اللغة الإنجليزية، لأنه بعدين من راح يصير الوقت اللي أنت تلتقي به بالأشخاص بالمجتمع راح تقول أوكي أنا فخور هسه لأنه قدرت أستغل الفرصة اللي أنا حصلتها أثناء وجودي بالبيت حتى أتعلم اللغة الإنجليزية. Thank you so much, Nick. I will tag your page on the post once I upload the other version that is higher resolution, hopefully, once we have the session is over. And I'll send you the link to the video so you can probably share it if you like on your page.
I'd love to.
And I'll tell my Iraqi community about you. I'll tell how good you are when it comes to deliver online pronunciation lessons, which I truly love. Sometimes when I'm driving to work, I just put it on the screen and just listen to it because I can't focus on driving and watching you. But this is the best chance probably for me to listen to you and stay in touch with language.
I love it. I'm very happy to have your friends and fans in the audience and have you watching. I was very proud of the day when you reached out and shared. You said, Nick, I love this class. I said, this guy loves the class. That's great. And we've been friends ever since. So I would love to do this again soon. Let's do another conversation, soon enough when you're ready to. I love being here and just talking with you. Your questions are always extremely interesting and in-depth, insightful, and I love it. It's great.
And I think one of the insightful aspects of your online lessons is that sometimes you're sleeping while somebody else watching your lessons and learning something.
Yeah.
So you just made their day by you sleeping while leaving your lesson there. Well, face-to-face, sometimes it's really hard to document and video, and then you go and edit. There's like so many kind of hassles out there when it comes to producing face-to-face videos. While online lesson is out there, you can just reach it out and then listen to it, and there you go. Well,
yeah, exactly. I love waking up. Yeah, I love waking up every morning and seeing dozens and dozens of new comments from people who were learning while I was sleeping. So it's great. Okay, well, thank you, Walid. It's been wonderful being here with you, and Ramadan Mubarak for everyone. Thank you, and let's do this again soon. I'm very happy to have these conversations.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a wonderful one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.